Welcome to the Lost at Home podcast. Here are your hosts, Scott Bear and Jeremiah Johnson.
Welcome to the Lost at Home podcast. My name is Scott.
I'm Jeremiah.
And we are back for yet another episode of this fine show. Jer, what episode number are we on?
We're at 229. You know what's great about 229, Scott?
It's a number.
It's a prime number. You know what's even better about that? Well, it's the larger of twin primes, 227. That was our last prime number episode. That was also the last odd number.
Okay.
So, and I didn't want to ruin it last time with 227. I didn't want to say that was a twin prime, even though I knew, because I didn't want to, spoiler for 229. Also, this is a full repetend prime, meaning the decimal expansion of its unit fraction 1 over 229 has n-1 or 228 decimal places. So, 1 divided by 229 has 228 decimal places. That's a thing that people in math pay attention to.
That is astounding, and that is not at all what our show is about. We are
Not at all.
not a math podcast.
Yep.
And if you're tuning back in this week and you're a long-time listener, you know exactly what the show is. But if you're a first-time listener, well, maybe we should give you a little bit of a heads up.
Yeah, here's a heads up. What we're about to tell you the show's about, we're not going to cover it today. But
nope.
But we're going to let you know anyway what you're missing today.
We're a podcast that basically pulls weird stories from the internet and turns them into new content. The kind of content you would find, say, in a movie, a TV show, a book, a rap song, a parody video. We try to twist all these weird news stories into something workable if you were to sit down with your friends and pull out a camera or a microphone and turn it into something grand. We also encourage listeners to do that because we consider this copywriting, so we're looking for those royalty checks down the road when you guys make your fantastic movies, TV shows, etc. based on our content. But when we don't do that, we have off weeks where we have celebrities, we'll just say celebrities, on to interview, and this week is one of those weeks. We have a returning guest.
Yeah, it's one of the only returning guests we've had, and it sounds like with some conversation we had with this gentleman off air as well that we might make him kind of the perennial guest if he's willing to come back every year. He's a great, especially right around the Halloween month guest. We're going to be talking to yet again Mark Steger. Those of you who are long time listeners, Jason, I'm looking at you, who probably remember us talking to him before about 2 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was episode 131. We talked to Mark Steger at that point because of our interest in the hit new show at the time, Stranger Things on Netflix, where he played the Demogorgon. We loved that role. We liked that creature. We liked him. We decided to talk to him. And you know what? It was a great episode, so we decided to see if we can capture lightning in a bottle twice. And guess what? I already have a bit of a spoiler for you. We recorded the interview before the preamble, so yes, we did. This is a very fun talk. We're going to speak with Mark about his role in the upcoming Conjuring universe movie, the CU, like Marvel has the MCU.
The MCU.
So this is the
Well, this would be,
CU.
I guess, the CCU, because that's Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is Conjuring Cinematic Universe.
Ooh, CCU.
Or the CHU, the CHU, the Conjuring Horror Universe.
Yeah. So
I like that. I like the CHU.
So he's in the upcoming movie The Nun, and also running the indie circuits right now at film festivals, and soon to hit theaters and VOD is the movie The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot, starring Sam Elliot and Mark Steger as the Bigfoot.
Yep, and some other good folks in there as well. Larry Miller, I forgot to actually mention him during the interview, was hilarious as well. I also wanted to point this little tidbit of information on, and we might want to keep this going for next year with Mark and try to, in terms of dictating our schedule. He was also on a prime number episode last time. 131 is also prime.
That is astounding.
Isn't it amazing?
Now, stay tuned. Check out this interview.
Yes, that's right.
We get into a bunch of fun topics, inclling Jared Leto's hidden mansion.
Yeah, who knew?
That comes towards the end of the interview, so stay tuned all the way through and enjoy this this fun little romp through what it's like to be a busy person in Hollywood. Hey, Mark, thanks for coming back on the show.
Hi, thank you for inviting me back. I enjoyed our last conversation.
Yeah,
very much.
That was fun. That was almost, I'm looking back now, about 2 years ago, I think in October of 2016, Simpler Times.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
Wow.
It was.
Wow.
I think we were asking our guests jokingly at that time, some of our interviewees, if Donald Trump gets elected, what will it be like as a joke? And then, of course, not too long after that, the world has changed since 2016. So,
yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that aspect of it.
Yeah, it's a different time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guess
we can talk about that if you want. Or whatever. I mean, don't think you asked me that question, but yeah.
I think the prediction. I honestly don't even think people can predict that now. And honestly, there's enough stuff out there about that. I'd be more curious to hear like what's been going on with you since 2016. Last we talked with you, you had just gotten done the amazing first season of Stranger Things had aired, of course, and to critical acclaim. And it's still something I go back and watch on a regular basis. But you've been busy since then. I don't know if you want to give a little update on some of the stuff you've been working on that we can look forward to, or some of the stuff that you already have out there we can take a look at.
What was that show you just mentioned? What was that show you talked about?
Oh, that little Stranger Things.
Yeah, that indie project no one watched.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Well, the problem was that Netflix didn't promote that thing, so nobody didn't really catch on. But I move on. My favorite project's always the next one. Anyway, what have I been doing? I've done a few other features. Actually, hold on. I often forget. I do something, I move on, and I forget what the last thing was that I did, and I sometimes have to Google myself. And hold on a second. Well, I know you guys expressed interest in talking about a couple projects. One was, recently I did The Nun. Actually, I shot it last year, but I have a small part in that. I play the Duke. I can't really tell you too many details about that because it hasn't been released yet. But it was an interesting project to work on because it was they brought me in after they had done most principal photography, which was shot in Romania. But they reproduced the locations on the lot at Warner Brothers, and the sets were amazing. I can say that about it. They're really there's supposed to be this medieval castle, and the scene I'm in actually takes place in medieval times. And I worked with the director Corin Hardy, but I also got to work with James Wan, who was the producer and directed the original Conjuring. And I have to say that, I appreciate his films. They're not, many of them aren't really my thing. The type of filmmaking that I'm into, but I was really impressed with him as director. I was really impressed by how much he was able to keep in his. He's like this master chess player. He was creating these really incredibly technically complicated shots with camera movements and knowing what the visual effects were going to be in the shot, as well as like on-set effects, and also watching the performance, which a lot of times directors it's like they don't have the bandwidth to do all that, and he would he'd have all these like minute comments, directions on all the aspects of the shot, and then he'd give me really good direction on my performance. So I was really, really, really impressed with him as a director. I'm curious to see, the other things that he has coming out. Although Aquaman isn't my bag, but I'd like to see him do something a little more personal, something that's more. But maybe these are personal to him. I don't know. Maybe that kind of a person where it's like, big, popcorn movies are my bag. That's my jam.
Fair enough. You did mention just now that special effects were going to be incorporated later. I believe you and I, when we were speaking earlier, we talked a little bit about how you actually appear as yourself in this film and not as a monster, which is, usually your repertoire.
Yeah. I imagine I'm a monster of a sort, but I appear as. You'll recognize me. I look pretty messed up. I'll just say that. Okay. The makeup department wasn't kind. It's mostly I just look kind of like ill and haggard and sickly, and but like I said, it's a small part, but it's kind of a pivotal moment in the film, and I also got to work with some really cool actors on that. One was Damien I think Bashir, I think is his name, is how you pronounce it. He plays oops, wrong one. He plays this priest, Damien Bashir, yeah. And I also got to work that the lead actress is Thaisa Farmiga, who I worked with on American Horror Story. The last time I'd seen her, we were doing, she was wielding a chainsaw, and we were doing chainsaw and zombie massacre training in New Orleans on American Horror Story. So it was kind of a fun reunion. It was like, hey, haven't seen you since this chainsaw. And she's terrific. So I'm curious to see this. I bet it's going to be I bet it's going to be good. I think it's going to be pretty entertaining.
Yeah.
So I did that. Something else you'd mentioned that I'd done, which is an interesting film. It's called The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. And from the title, you would think it's a comedy, maybe, perhaps. That's what most people seem to get when they hear about it, but it's actually not. I mean, there are a few moments of humor in it, but it's actually a very kind of sweet drama about this man played by Sam Elliot, who was a special ops soldier in World War II, and then later on is tasked with hunting down the Bigfoot, who is spreading disease through the Canadian countryside. I haven't actually seen the finished film yet. It's starting to go to festivals now, but it was a really good project, really fun project to work on. It was a first-time director named Robert Krzyzkowski, who was really very smart and really good writer, and for first-time director, I think he did really well. It was produced by John Sayles, who, I don't know if you're familiar with his work.
I know his name. I feel like if I heard a few of his projects, it would just click.
Lone Star, Mate One, Brother from Another Planet. Mm-hmm. He was like he kind of cut his teeth. He's one of those guys, like, a lot of producers and directors worked for Roger Corman back in the day, in the 70s. And he was one of those guys who, I think he wrote the first Piranha film.
Okay.
And but for me, he was one of my favorite filmmakers, favorite indie filmmakers. I love Lone Star. Mate One is a great film as well. But you might want to check some of his work out. You may have seen some of it, but it was interesting that he was producing this. He basically shepherded the project and found financing for it and helped Robert, with the script and with directing. The other interesting people who worked on the project, aside from there was Spectral Motion did the Bigfoot suit, which who are the guys who did Stranger Things and Hellboy, the Hellboy movies, and I'm working with them on an upcoming film, which I'll mention in a minute. But also the people who are doing the visual effects it's Douglas Trumbull is one of them, and hold on, I'm gonna make sure I'm getting all my casting crew right here.
No, I'm glad you brought this up, because I was actually going to lead to the next thing, which was you are the Bigfoot in The Man Who Killed Hitler and the Bigfoot. That's
true. I didn't mention that. You're absolutely right.
I thought it was worthy of note.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't lead in very well with that one. Richard Yurkich, and Douglas Trumbull and Richard Yurkich and Rocco Joffrey. These are three. I don't know if you remember these guys. These are especially Richard Yurkich and Douglas Trumbull. Mm-hmm. Well, all three of them were heroes of mine when I was younger. They worked on. Douglas Trumbull did the effects for 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Oh, yeah.
He was the effects supervisor.
Nice.
And both of these guys worked on Blade Runner. The list goes on and on. These are the gods of visual effects from that era of the 60s, 70s, and early 80s. So it was thrilling to I didn't meet Richard Yurkich or Douglas Trumbull because they were off working somewhere else, some other part of New England. But I did meet Rocco. So that was very cool, you know. And he told me that he had this amazing producer, and he had these amazing people working on the visuals. I was just, you know, kind of like, yeah, sign me up. It was a good experience. I really enjoyed. It's one of those ones. I really enjoy working on indie, you know, small independent films like this. It feels more, it's more of a family, you know, more of the chain of command doesn't get in the way as much, doesn't feel as impersonal, doesn't feel as much of like you're just punching a clock, which you do on a lot of larger features. Although some of those are really fun to work on as well. So I did that one. I played Bigfoot, and hopefully I imagine they're going to get some kind of distribution for it. I don't know what they have going yet. I know it premiered in Montreal not long ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I imagine it'll get good distribution because so far it's gone to, I think, 2 indie circuits for viewings, and the critical review is very high.
It came out of Fantasia with high reviews, so I know that, you know, that's not a bad thing to start with. So.
What? I'm sorry. What'd you say?
Oh, I believe it came out of Fantasia Film Festival with good reviews.
Yeah, Fantasia.
That's not a bad place to start with good reviews. I know, because that kind of like it's a pretty good building block. And I mean, between the cast and everything behind it, I would assume I've read nothing but good things about it. And it's funny you mentioned that you know people would think it was a comedy, because that's exactly what I thought when I first read the title. I had no idea who was in it, what it was about, but I assumed, oh, this is going to be like a crazy Sharknado, Roger Corman produced type thing. And then I read about it, and I was like, oh, okay, no, this sounds like it's actually a pretty legit movie, and the box art looked cool, and Sam Elliot looks badass all the time. So
yeah, and I have to say, you know, Sam Elliott's another one of those people that I've always admired. And he's the sweetest man, and he was just a dream to work with. And you know, he's that guy. He's that guy you see on screen. You know, he acts and he plays different characters, of course, but you get a sense of who he is when you see him in film and TV, and he is that guy, and he's just like he's just like he's this mensch, you know, he's this great human being. Really, really loved working with him. You know, all my most of my scenes were with him.
Oh, okay, great.
And it was a lot of I was battling him and his stunt double most of the time.
To be Sam Elliott's stunt double.
Oh yeah, just get a big mustache and you're good to go. Just be seen by the side. People just recognize him in silhouette from that thing alone. It's pretty badass.
Yeah, you can put a mustache on the right mustache on anybody. Yeah.
That's right. Were there any other projects that have actually already come out that you want to talk about? I know there's a couple of other ones that I don't think you can do more than just tease at this point, if you can even say anything at all about them. And you know, if not, we can cut anything you need out. But I know that there were a couple Scott was teasing me about, as far as things that have just been like loosely announced maybe, but there hasn't been much said about those.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that I did that actually is, I see it here on IMDb. It's called Velvet Buzzsaw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By writer-director Dan Gilroy, and it stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Rene Russo. And that was a really interesting project. It takes place in it's kind of this jaundiced view of the commercial gallery world. Again, I can't say too much about it. I do play an interesting part in that as well, and also Spectral Motion did the suit for that.
Well, it also looks like it's got Natalie Dyer listed as one of the people in there. Natalia. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, that was another fun, reunion, little reunion I had with her too, because I think we saw each other on the call sheet, but I didn't know she was going to be on that, pretty much until I got on set, and then we saw each other. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, that's cool.
And we didn't really have. We had one shot together, but most of my scenes in that were with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Mm-hmm.
But that's going to be an interesting project. Again, I can't say too much about that. But I played an interesting character.
Yeah.
And it's pretty cool. I think it's going to be cool. I know I can only talk about these things generally. Yeah. I'll tell you about one more project I can tell you about give you as many specifics as I can, which ain't many. Aren't many, excuse me, pardon my grammar. I'm going to be working on this one called Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
It is that one.
Which is
we were placing bets as to whether it was this film or one of his other projects.
Because Scott mentioned Del Toro, and I had been paying close attention to that because I was like, they just started production, I believe, in Toronto like a week ago on that.
We're both huge fans of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's funny. I had heard of the books, but I'd never actually seen them.
It's all about the art. Art is
amazing. I got a call about this, and I looked it up, and the illustrations are beautiful. And again, it's Spectral Motion is doing the makeup effects on that, and the stuff looks great.
I can imagine.
I did a test. I did a test a few weeks back, and the stuff looks great. And it's Del Toro's not. He's writing and producing it. The director is Andre.
Yeah.
I don't get his.
Was it
the Overdahl?
Yeah, it's the person
who directed Troll Hunter.
Yeah, and Autopsy of Jane Doe as well.
And both those movies are great.
Yeah, he's got some quality movies under his belt.
Yeah, so he's directing this film. This one I'm really excited about because everything. It looks great. Everybody who's involved is great. I love the way, the test I did. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So very much looking forward to that one. Yeah.
Well, those movies are staples for those of us that grew up in the 80s. Those were always checked out of the library. I finally got my parents to buy an actual full set of them because they released a few different versions of them. And it was probably one of my biggest influences in drawing horror stuff. It was one of I don't even remember much of the stories themselves, but the art is really what made those books so creepy and so amazing.
It really is, yeah. And I tell people that, I'm doing this thing called Scary, and they all, if they know about it, if they know those books, they all go, oh, I love those books when I was a kid.
I was so excited to hear it being made.
Yeah, like people are really passionate about them, and I get it. When I saw the illustrations, like, oh, this is amazing. I would have loved this when I was a kid. But they're being really faithful to those illustrations with the look of some of the characters. Yeah,
music to my ears, and I was hoping to hear that with Del Toro involved. I was hoping he would kind of lend that vibe to it. So.
Yeah, he wanted that too, and he's liking the way stuff is looking, and it looks great. You won't be disappointed with that stuff.
That's really good to hear.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. I haven't seen the script just yet, so I don't know. I think they're going to be kind of there's a lot of short stories. I think they're going to be like somehow. I don't think it's going to be like an anthology, but they're going to somehow put several of the stories together.
Yeah.
Kind of as an odyssey, I think.
Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. I'm not concerned about it at all. I think it's going to be great. I'm really, really looking forward to this. I'm more excited about this than I've been on that anything in a long time. So I'm doing that. I think I've told you everything I can about that one.
Yeah, no, that's more than I thought. I didn't expect to even get a title out of you, and I was so happy it's that one. That was what my money was on, and I was going to ask you off air, like, can you tell me if it isn't something? And then, but I'm so glad we actually got that confirmed. I don't
think there's any problem with telling you the title.
Yeah, because I know it's coming out, and I believe me, I pay attention to the horror blogs and stuff, and that one. Anytime an update on that comes through, I'm reading it. So I'm really excited about that one.
Yeah, I think people are going to be pretty happy with it who are fans of the book. I think it's one of those ones that's not going to get messed up.
Yeah,
because the people who are making it are such fans of the books. Yeah. So there's that. There's a few other things that are in such early stages that I can't really even say anything about them, but one's a feature, one's a series that may or may not be connected to. But it's always like that. There's always something kind of on the back burner simmering, or just getting pulled out of the freezer and defrosted.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Makes sense.
And I'm doing, I've had some of my own projects going as well. Actually, when I last talked to you guys was right when I was starting this project with my friend. I was in Williamsburg Brooklyn when I talked to you the last time, and I was there to hang out with my buddy Jimbo, who this is a guy I've known. I knew him. We met in San Francisco years ago at a studio called Colossal Pictures, which was an animation studio that worked on. I may have mentioned this to you last time too. It was, the original Liquid Television series on MTV was done at this. We did that there. We did a lot of station IDs for MTV and music video stuff, and then we did commercials and movie titles, things like that at the studio. But Jimbo's was pretty much my best buddy from this studio, and we reconnected not long before I talked to you guys, and we decided we're going to make our own. Film. We're making a horror film. It's a horror film with strong comedy elements. It's called From Space, and we're just getting set to pitch it now. Been writing a script over the last couple of years, getting that together, and that's pretty fun. It's about this woman named Neil, who's an emotionally damaged new wave one-hit wonder from the 80s, and her new girlfriend turns out to be a drug-dealing murderer from space.
That's awesome.
That's what we're working on.
That would
there's
be
more to it than that.
It's right up my alley by the sounds of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. We've been having a lot of fun writing it, and it just it's a really fun process. We work together really well. We get along really well, and we both have wacky ideas. As we're going, we want to do everything as much of the effects practically as possible. But we're coming up with some real showstoppers, and they're all, as we're going, because we used to do animation and effects, we know how to do all this stuff. So we're figuring out how to do it as we come up, as we conceptualize it, which I think is going to help us in the process when we're trying to sell it, sell the project, get financing for the project, that we know how to, we thought this all through. Because if you read the script, you think, oh, that's going to be a cheap movie. But it's some pretty cool stuff. Yeah, that I can't tell you too much about either. Except what can I tell you about? I was recently hanging naked upside down.
I saw those pictures. I was going to ask about those because I didn't want to see. We follow you on Insta, and I saw a couple of those flicks, and I would just wanted to say, we didn't have to limit any of this to just your movie stuff. I know that you do a lot of other things as well, and whether you wanted to talk about that.
Yeah. I was. I used to do. I had this group that I performed live with for about 17 years. That was kind of my main focus. And I was interested in the history of the body, and kind of manifesting that through these really extreme physical transformations that we would do live. My partner, Hannah Sim, we look very similar. We look like we could have been, brother and sister. Would perform completely naked. We had no hair on our bodies anywhere. Just would do these really, intense animalistic movement with our bodies in these really extreme environments, like castle ruins and the LA River, and hanging off of bridges, and castle ruins and treetops, and I said castle ruins again.
They're cool enough. It's good.
And old ships, 18th century ships, it was great. It was great for that was my main thing, and I hadn't performed live in over probably 12 years. And a friend of mine was producing this event at the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, and they asked me if I wanted to do something. Yeah, I included you in this proposal, and you want to do something suspended outside the pavilion, inside. And I was kind of, part of me was like, they want me. Like, your ego kind of kicks in. which it shouldn't. I mean, it does, but that there was that half of my reaction. I was like, oh man, somebody wants me to perform, even though I hadn't thought about doing it in a while. But the other part of me was just like, what the fuck? I was terrified. I was like, I don't do that anymore. I mean, I still do really intense physical work when I'm working film and TV, but that's under more controlled conditions, and I have more of a, there's a crew behind you. There's people who are
a safety net. Yeah.
There are people doing the rigging, people, also, because I wasn't sure what I wanted, like what if I had something to say with this again, like what I was trying to communicate. But ultimately, it ended up, it felt like what I was doing was trying to put my past work in context for myself somehow, if that makes any sense. But I was kind of like, wasn't sure what. I've been thinking, like, I think I want, I've been thinking about maybe should I perform live again? What would that look like? But I felt like I wasn't ready to reinvent the wheel, that I need to check in with the type of work that I used to do. So I did this. It was very similar, at least some of the same vocabulary that I used, the physical vocabulary that I used to use, years ago. But I think the intent, and there's an emotional component to it that wasn't there in the past. Before, it was very much about being sort of alien, and it was like before it was kind of like I was accessing dormant DNA. Like I was like, what is the body? What did the body used to be? Where is the body? What's the body's origins, or what kind of forms has it taken? And there was that in it as well, but also the fact that I'm a lot older now than I used to be when I did this, and my relationship felt very different with it, and I was completely terrified. I was hanging naked 30 feet over like cement, upside down. At one point, I remember looking down. I looked down and I saw the ground below me, and I just imagined my face hitting it. Okay. My teeth, like with my teeth, like teeth first. I would have hit it teeth first. That's how I imagined it.
You're envisioning the teeth spattering out and people collecting them.
Yeah, my whole face just kind of going flat.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. It was really interesting. I think my terror actually came across in the performance, because people told me that there were actually people crying.
Wow.
Which was, another friend of mine, people said different things. One friend said that she was just, she was really scared. I guess I must have looked really terrified. I don't know. But it was interesting. It was good to do it. That shit's a lot harder than I remembered it being. So when I was doing it all the time, it was like, it was kind of second nature in a way, and I was in a certain kind of shape. I was kind of tuned to doing that work. And not that I'm in bad shape now, but it took different physicality. It took a lot of different muscles than I was used to using. And I wasn't certain I could do it, and I was looking for any excuse to back out, like they would send me, the venue would send me an email that, that would kind of get on my nerves or make me mad or something. I was like, I should just pull out. That's it. I'm not going to do it. Just gonna pull out.
That little excuse.
But it was more like, thank God I have an excuse to
yes.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So out of curiosity, if someone asked you to do this again, say this year, would you?
I might. I don't know if I would do exactly the same piece that I did, but I would consider it. I would have to. I probably want to start doing is adding different elements to it. And I'm not sure exactly what those would be. But it's still, to me, it's still important to say something about evolution and science, and because that was my inspiration for this when I first started doing it. These things are important to me. I think especially now more than ever, that stuff's important.
Current climate and all.
And and what's that?
I said with the current climate and all.
Yeah. So, not backing away from that. Not that I want to just do work that's reactionary, but these things still, I still have these ideas that bother me about all that stuff. I think I would, I'm conceptually, I'm not sure where I would take it at this point, but yeah, I'm open to doing it again. That's why I did it.
When people come to you for that kind of thing, I mean, how much actual guidance is given ahead of time, or do they just say, we want something? Were they specifically like, we want something with you suspended, or would this like, we want some kind of performance piece like this, and they kind of leave you to it and kind of leave their notes out of it?
Well, generally the proper thing for any presenter to do is just, unless they have a specific piece they want, which they can do that. They request that you do something. Although a lot of artists don't, like performers don't, they don't repeat themselves. I mean, every performance is different, obviously, but I mean, I have a certain vocabulary that I can tap into that I can use for different situations and different environments. But generally, it's kind of bad manners to tell somebody like what, tell them what you want them to do. Although, the friend of mine who produced this last event, he was very familiar. He's a good friend, and he's very familiar with my work. So, I kind of knew what he was going for, and that was fine. And that's fine. It's like, I'm not offended if somebody says, can you do that thing with the bunny ears and the, and the jock strap that you did before? I would say yes, but without the jock strap. I mean, that's fine. I'm not, that doesn't put me off or anything. It's a conversation that you have, so the short answer is, well, I don't know, what's the question? The short answer is that I'm open to whatever.
Okay.
I wouldn't want to repeat what I've done exactly.
Right.
It never is exactly the same thing.
But it sounds like it's pretty
when you
flexible for the most part, figuratively and literally speaking.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been doing live stuff. I've been working with this artist named Castles. We're gonna be working on some other projects soon. I did a show with them called Powers That Be, where they're fighting an invisible opponent. So I choreographed that.
Cool.
They performed that in. We did one. So the last version of that we did at the Broad Museum here in Los Angeles. The first iteration of that was in Kuopio, Finland, at a festival there. That was a couple of years ago. But hope to be doing more work with them as well.
That actually that reminds me a lot of when we first spoke 2 years ago. How you said your career started doing music videos for Tool and other bands. And have you actually looked into doing that more recently, or have you been approached to do more of that kind of work?
Well, I actually just choreographed a video for my friend Julia SH directed, for a singer named Miss Williams, that's supposedly gonna drop soon. But I don't seek out that kind of work. I've done that, I generally, when I do that now, it's for a friend's project. Although I'd be interested in doing more of that, like directing music videos, because I like it as, I think it's an interesting form, and if you look at it as making a short film, I'm not that into what they usually look like, which is the guitarist playing guitar in the shower or whatever, like the I mean, I really appreciate when I worked with Tool, that they the band wasn't in any of the music videos. I love that,
me too.
And I mean, they're not the kind of, they're not the kind of band that would really, I mean, that's kind of not their presentation anyway. They kind of fade in the background a little bit. They're kind of like Pink Floyd in that sense, where it's like they have a lot of visuals in their shows, and it's more about that. I mean, the live component of them playing live, that's obviously the most important part of it, and they're great. I actually appreciate them a lot more live than recorded. But for that particular band, I mean, there's some some musicians where it's like, God, you have to put it in front of the camera, because they have such an amazing presence. Not to say those guys don't, but they're not interested in that, in presenting themselves that way. But also, I think that lends more to I think he can do something more interesting in that sense, too, in that way too, because you're not under these constraints of having the band playing instruments, or I just remembered I actually did do this one other interesting project. I don't know if they're ever going to release it though, because I already had a couple music videos out for it, but it was I got this weird call about working with Jared Leto.
Oh, yeah.
Who has a band. It's not my style of music, but I was interested in hearing what they wanted, or what they had to, what he was interested in doing. They actually called me about doing something for the MTV, what are they called, the Music Video Awards or whatever, Video Awards. They were performing live, but it was like 2 days away, and I was like, I don't know what you want. I can't do that. I hadn't actually talked to anybody there. This is all through my agent. But then she told me, it's like, well, they're interested. They also want to shoot a music video, and want to know if you want to come in and talk to them about that. So I went up to this guy has the most amazing compound. It's I can't tell you specifically exactly where it is, but it's really kind of,
this guy being Jared Leto.
Jared Leto, yeah.
Yeah.
He has this place that's it's in the hills, in a canyon in the Hollywood Hills, and really beautiful areas. It's like trees and very lush, and like pretty houses and stuff. But up there is technically it used to be an Air Force base, but it was maybe you guys know about this, but in the 50s and 60s, when the U.S. was doing all these atmospheric and underground nuclear bomb tests, they had this group of filmmakers that were based here in L.A. who would go out and shoot them. They'd go to the Marshall Islands, they'd go out to the desert, and they'd photograph, they'd film the detonations. He has the place where they used to work.
Really?
This place.
Wow.
This place, and there are these long underground hallways with big vault doors that say USAF Top Secret on them.
Oh, that's
There's
pretty
a
cool.
sound stage. There's a sound stage in there. There's all these above ground. It's like it looks like just kind of a nice, like, sunny little villa. Not little, it's a big place. I really couldn't get quite a sense of like the scale of it, or it's very labyrinthine. But that's why I went to meet them. That's actually where we shot it too. But it's like a dream place to have. I mean, I would love to have this kind of place, a sound stage in my house. That'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, just that kind of background is so cool.
Yeah, and the setting where it is really beautiful. I understand. Somebody told me that they heard him say that he was thinking of moving now because a lot of people know where the place is or something.
Oh yeah.
But I guess he has big parties there too and stuff. So people are going to find out.
Yeah.
So anyway, I went up there and I met him. Well, at first I met with his producers, and they shipped. I mean, he has a whole production company up there. I mean, he's got like all these editors, all these computers going. He has like this, table full of people doing social media, and it was insane. It was such a, it's a production company really. And they kind of told me in general terms that they wanted to make a music video, but I really didn't understand what kind of input they wanted from me. And I met Jared, briefly. He was in between things, but he came out and we talked a little bit. He actually said he'd seen me perform with Tool like in 2001, and he had never forgotten it, and that's why he wanted to work with me.
Oh, cool.
That's amazing.
That was interesting. Yeah, it was an interesting connection. But they were planning on shooting this thing like in 2 days. So it was this mad scramble to get all these people together, performers, and I wasn't really clear on the concept. There's a lot of somewhat random imagery, but the main thing they had these cameras that they were using it's called the FLIR, FLIR. It's a thermal imaging camera. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
No.
It's like the
the
Predator.
like the Predator, exactly. Except these are like state of the art ones. These are ones that have to they actually have to go back to a military base at night. They can't be left anywhere. They're this company's technology, but the technology, I guess, is licensed to the military, or it's military technology, so they can't. These cameras can't be left anywhere. They'll always have to be with the guys that run them, or they have to be at a base somewhere.
Wow.
So they're really the imaging is really amazing. It's that very colorful graphic imaging. So I probably can't say too much about it because that hasn't been released as well. They already had 2 music videos up for the same song, so I'm not sure what the producer told me they were still thinking of doing something with it, but I think they weren't sure what to do with it. Mm-hmm. I have kind of a tentative appointment to go up and look at all the stuff that we shot and see what the edit that they put together. So if that comes out, though, I'll let you guys know. And
oh yeah,
absolutely.
It was just kind of one of those weird LA Hollywood connections stories. Yeah. Like when it is you go up to this place that's kind of secret, and it's like it actually used to be top secret.
Yeah, so literally.
Just being in this place, I was so thrilled. It's like, oh god, this is so cool. This is like a dream. If I could have a live work environment, this would be it. I mean, it was quite a wonderful place, and I like the dude too. I mean, he's cool. His crew, everybody there was pretty solid.
Yeah, he's done some great stuff. And when you talk about a presence that is, probably one of those definitely more meant for in front of the camera, that would be, as far as being in a rock band, that's definitely one of those guys where you want to slap him in front of a camera usually. So.
Yeah, and I actually. I told him this too. Like I knew he had a band, but I just thought it was a vanity project. I was like,
they've been at it for a long time. Yeah,
movie star with a band. Okay, sure. Yeah. I didn't realize that they sold out stadiums. I didn't know that.
They've been doing it for a while. I thought the same thing when I first heard of it. We're talking 30 Seconds to Mars, or they've been doing it for a while, and I remember hearing that as well. I was like, oh, it's like Russell Crowe's band, where he gets out, he's probably not very good. And then,
that's exactly what I was just thinking in my head as a reference
where it's
point.
just like, oh, it's cute, they're doing it, and they like doing it with their buddies and drinking beers with their friends. But yeah, for the most part, he took it serious.
He's very serious about it. Yeah. It's like he has these 2 tandem careers going, and I think probably music is a little more important to him. But
that's
he does them both somehow.
Yeah.
Well, he has when you see that the kind of operation he has, you realize like that's how he gets it done because he has so many people working for him. Mm-hmm. That was kind of a funny, interesting. So and basically I ended up I was kind of choreographing it, but he directs all their videos, but he wasn't because the thing was they were leaving the day after we finished shooting the video, they were leaving on tour, so he was involved with rehearsals with his band and getting that all together. So he wasn't actually there very much. So I was kind of running the shoot, and at a certain point he came down, and it's like we weren't really sure. The DP and I would kind of look at each other, not really sure what we were supposed to be doing. And then once Jared actually came down and we kind of saw what he was going for, we were able to tune into that.
Nice.
But it was fun. I brought a bunch of my friends who were performers in, brought a couple stunt guys in to fight, and just had it was fun. It's one of those things. It's the thing about music videos can be really grueling. This one wasn't so bad time, like as far as the length of shoot days and all, but they can be really, if you're just kind of given free rein to do what you want, they can be incredibly fun, and if you look at it more as a short film as opposed to like a promo, you can do some interesting stuff. So, but I'll let you guys know if that ever, sees,
oh, absolutely,
the internet. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm sure there's other things that I've done since that it might be interesting. I can't think of what they are. But I have a lot of things going on at once, and kind of it's like things kind of bubble up and one thing gets hotter, and you have to sort of, stir that one for a while, and then something else, and then eventually one's ready, and then you have to eat it, and that takes a year out of your life.
Yeah.
I'm using really bad food analogies.
Yeah. You know those meals that take you a year to eat. Yeah. Classic.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. That's kind of my life. I just, I have all these different projects that are in different stages, and then something goes, and then that's your life. That's what you're consumed with first, and amount of your life, amount of your time.
Yeah, it
makes it hard to make plans sometimes, but it's also very exciting. In my life, I get to work with a lot of really incredible artists, and I don't really have any complaints with that as far as that goes.
Yeah,
we definitely appreciate you coming back on the show and basically touching base. The last 2 years of your life are way more interesting than either of ours.
Yeah, I'm just like, I've been sitting here. I've been watching those movies you talked about.
Oh, you guys are cool though. You guys are cool. You guys are both really good artists too. Which
thank you. Yeah, I know we follow each other
Scott,
on the
you
Insta
sent me
now.
that one really great Demogorgon drawing, and then Jeremiah, I've been seeing your drawings and illustrations and some animations you've been doing online.
Yeah,
that stuff is terrific.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, I really appreciate that. It's because I've loved the art that I've seen of yours as well. So it's nice to get that kind of feedback. It kind of spits up from time to time on Insta, but yeah, we like to do that stuff. We like to stay creative, that's for sure. So it's whether it's for, I'm sure even if you weren't doing what you're doing for a living, you'd be finding ways to do what you're doing somehow. Regardless, the people who have the creativity on the inside need to find a way to get it out, money or no. So
yeah. Well, I often tell people that I'm doing what I've always done, since I was a kid, basically, and I tell people a lot of it is just finding, the key is finding continuity between your childhood and your adult life. And, a lot of people I work with, that's it's kind of the same for them. Some people came to what they do later. Take for instance, Mike Elizalde, who runs Spectrum Motion. He was in the Navy for, I can't remember, it was like 6 or 8 years, doing electronics, and then he became interested in mechanical effects and creature effects and all that. So he's also a really great draftsman. He draws really well, and he just kind of trained himself, and now he has one of the best shops in the industry, and he's doing all this amazing work. That's really interesting to me. These people who come to it later in life and discover this thing, that they have this gift and this passion for something that maybe they didn't. Maybe they had the passion for it, but they didn't have, they never conceived of actually doing it until a certain point in their lives. They I'm going to teach myself how to do this, and then there they are. That's really interesting to me as well. But like I said, a lot of people like Rick Baker, for instance, he's been doing it. The same thing he's been doing since he was a kid.
Yeah, exactly. Just found the way to make some money, actually do what you love, and that's part of the dream. And if you weren't, you'd have a day job and still go home and do that same stuff. So it's
that's the thing and I admire that as well. Adam Jones is a good example of that. He was working. He was working a really, really creative job at Stan Winston Studios, and he worked on. You guys probably know this. He worked on the original Terminators and the original Predator doing makeup effects. But he started Tool while he was doing that stuff. Yeah. And that says a lot about him as an artist, that he was so committed that he would still find time to do that. Although, when you're working on films, sometimes you have breaks where, you have a little time off. You do have time for other projects, but it's still, to keep something else going, that's and do it that well while you're doing another job that speaks volumes. That's such a creative dynamo. That's really incredible. I love those kinds of stories as well.
Absolutely.
That actually speaks true to this entire conversation. I love hearing these stories. And Mark, we are actually hitting the end of the show. I know I could literally talk to you for hours.
You're tired. No,
I was gonna say this is so interesting and on such a great level. But let's make a date for 2 years from now. We can come back and touch base again.
It doesn't have to be that long.
We can do it in 1 year if you want.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you'll be the perennial guest.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have a lot going on the next year, so I might have some stuff to talk about.
That sounds good. You're welcome back on the show anytime you want to be, and don't be afraid of me when I pester you.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to shout out any social media spots people can find you, or websites, or anything people can find any of your stuff?
Well, I'm redesigning my website, which is it's meant to include more stuff. But right now, it's just mostly film and television stuff. But I'm going to include everything that I've done, including my own personal projects as well as the live work I've done. That's just marksteger.net. But I'm not sure exactly when I had that done because I put this stuff together myself and it takes forever. I've discovered recently that somebody was squatting the Mark Steger on Instagram. I think I have like 600 followers on my Instagram account, and then I discovered that there's this other one that was me. Somebody masquerade, somebody else put up that had thousands of followers, and I was like, what? So I wrote to Instagram. Yeah, I asked them for administration of the account, but they just removed it. So I was like, man. So I'm Stegosaurus not on Instagram, but I did get the other one finally. I haven't done anything with it.
Yeah, I noticed that another request came through, and I was like, I thought we were already following each other. So I noticed that there was a couple of Stegers.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to actually use that one. It's there. I started connecting with people. Then I realized, do I want 2 accounts?
Yeah.
So it's kind of right now. It's just sort of a placeholder. So nobody else squats it.
Yeah.
Anyway, I know you guys have to go. But it was great talking to you.
No, absolutely. Yeah,
always. Yeah.
We'll plan on doing it. Yeah. One year from now, and we'll keep in touch on the various socials. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing anything that pops up, whether it's just your posts, little bits and pieces on Instagram, or the actual movies and stuff.
All right. Cool.
Very cool.
Awesome, you guys.
Awesome.
Well, all the best.
All right, thank you for being. Sorry,
there you go.
Thank you for
Scott.
being back on the show,
pleasure.
and I was going to say also have a happy Halloween coming up.
That's right.
Yeah, you too. You guys too. Have a happy Halloween.
All right, take care, buddy.
All right, man.
Awesome. Thanks again, Mr. Steger, for sitting down with us second time, and hopefully not the last, actually. I mean, it sounds like we'll be talking with him quite a bit more in the future for various projects, but definitely next year, hopefully for another Prime Number episode where we can see what else he's been up to. He is busy, as you mentioned before the interview, so I guarantee he'll have a ton more to be and the stuff that he works on is really interesting, too. It's not like I have no doubt that the stuff he's going to bring to the table is going to be really wild and crazy and really fun, because he's a lot of times playing creatures. He's playing in these these movies that are very targeted toward people like us that like these kind of dark movies often, and sometimes creature features.
Yeah, we figure if you're listening to us, you probably have similar sensibilities, and you're probably going to be interested in these projects. So thank you again for listening. We enjoy you being a guest on our show and a guest to this conversation. This was definitely one to put your ear to the wall for.
Absolutely. And I guess without further ado, I say, get lost.
Get lost.
Who needs love when you got chemicals? Got a big old crush on lady pharmaceutical. Who needs love? 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 I need attention. Drugs made my heart explode. Love made your heart explode. You need love. You need love. You need love. I don't need none. You need love. You need love, you need love, you need attention. I tried love and I tried chemicals. is happy,